What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today it is yet another of my off-season prediction series for the 2023 off-season for the NFL. It's the Arizona Cardinals. Thanks for coming back. Make sure to check out all the other videos once you're done with this one. And, of course, like and subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss anything that I put out on this channel. And I've chose Arizona because it is Black Monday at the time of this recording, and I had already written this up on the assumption Cliff Kingsbury is going to get fired, and it looks like he is, as Arizona has locked up the number 3 overall pick in the draft. So why not move on from Cliff Kingsbury? Clearly there's some issues going on with Cliff and Kyler, and you got to choose Kyler. I'm sorry, Cliff Kingsbury has not done enough to really prove himself to be worthy of maintaining that head coaching spot over the quarterback. Arizona's in an interesting spot. They're losing J.J. Watt to retirement, so the veteran presence is sort of gone. So you got to figure out what you need for this team going forward. What would be good for them in terms of an addition at the head coaching position? And I was running through a couple of different names, a couple of different ideas, and I was thinking, I don't really like the idea of it being an offensive guy. I just don't. I feel like you should get somebody specifically brought in to focus on the offense, on the scheme, on getting Kyler up to speed in a good system with good game planning and using all the players all together. Getting the head coach to be more across the board, paying attention, maybe even focused on the defensive side of the ball. And maybe what this needs is somebody who can be a motivator, somebody who has proven to be able to take over a team that has some good talent, if not great talent, and to maintain it and make them maybe even a little bit better. So I had all that in mind. They don't really have a great cap situation. Their picks are going to be awesome. And they don't really have that many gaping needs, but we'll start, as we always do, with the head coach. And the head coach that I chose is DeMeco Ryans, the current 49ers defensive coordinator, Houston Texans legend at linebacker, also played for the Eagles. I think he played for one other team as well. But he is a young defensive coordinator in the NFL who took over from Robert Saleh there in San Francisco when Saleh took the New York Jets job. And that defense hasn't missed a beat. In fact, this is probably this year the best this defense has looked. Maybe even during the Robert Saleh years. There was the Super Bowl year with Saleh, and that cannot be discounted. That defense was really great, but this defense, there's something so special about it again, and DeMeco Ryans is such a key part of that. He was able to take Saleh's system, mix in his own idiosyncrasies, his own nuances, and it was just unbelievable the way that he's been able to especially take some talent in that secondary in particular that may not be all that great on paper and has really put them in a position to be tremendous success stories this year. I like Hufanga would be one of those names out there. You got some of the guys at the cornerback room, and I think that that's something that's really important for this Arizona team because they don't really have high levels of talent at the cornerback position. Byron Murphy, who's naturally more of a slot cornerback, has had to play on the outside because they just haven't been able to figure that out. And maybe DeMeco Ryans has the keys there, and maybe his relation to the players because of his age, the fact that he was a player and was a player at such a high level, is coming over from a team that has such a winning culture developed over there. Maybe he steals a positions coach from the 49ers as well to be his offensive coordinator, to bring that Shanahan system over, which could work wonders for someone like Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. Of course, they got the tight end there, Trey McBride, who they drafted last year, putting him in maybe a George Kittle role. And then, there's the possibilities of what they can do at running back in this draft with some pretty good backs in there. Could they trade up back into the first round to get Bijan Robinson, make him their Christian McCaffrey in this offense? There's so many possibilities, and DeMeco Ryans brings so much. I think he brings so much optimism to this team in so many different ways. And there's the ways that we can assume, like the intangible ways that I just listed, but then there's the absolute tangibles, and that is, what has the 49ers defense done this year that has made them so great? What are their numbers on paper? Because at the end of the day, what you see on the page at the end of the year, the stats, the wins is really what matters. Potential. only gets you so far. Wish in one hand, crap in the other. Tell me which one fills up first. But you look at this, and these are the defensive rankings for the 49ers this year under DeMeco Ryans. They're number 1 in points allowed. They're 21st in passing yards, but they're second in total yards. These teams are just not capable of moving the ball. They're putting themselves in a position to take leads early by playing strong, disciplined defense, and they're not allowing these teams to score touchdowns either. They're 5th in touchdowns allowed. They're 1st in red zone touchdowns allowed. So when that team gets in the red zone, that's when that defense really shows up. They're at their best. That is so important. When teams do give up, when your defense does maybe give up a big play here or there, it does happen. But what do they do to recover from that? And no team has been better this year at recovering from those hiccups than the 49ers defense. And so much of that is the ability to play call. So much of that is having a strong scheme. So much of that is being able to disguise coverages, disguise blitzes, stunts, all those things. And DeMeco Ryans has been the head of all of that. So it's almost incredibly undeniable. He allows the defense to allow the team to play with a lead, which does also influence the amount of passing yards a team will give up in comparison to rush yards. Generally, the really bad teams are going to give up more rushing yards than others just because they're constantly playing from behind. So teams are not throwing the ball against them anymore. They're running the football to try to waste the clock away. But this is the type of thing that DeMeco Ryans can bring to this Cardinals team. Obviously, the overall talent level is not the same, but to be able to maybe improve that Cardinals defense so drastically will also help that offense, will keep Kyler more comfortable, where he doesn't have to feel like he has to constantly be chucking the ball down the field. And also moving away, now that Kingsbury's gone, from that air raid offense, that college air raid offense that teams clearly have been able to really figure out and been able to stop. One of the keys for Arizona is that they have $27.6 million in cap space. That's not a whole lot, really, at the end of the day, especially when you go over, of course, I used overthecap.com to look at this. They don't really have any type of big contracts to get rid of that wouldn't result in humongous dead money losses. The only one that I could see was Robbie Anderson. It frees up $12 million in cap space. Easy to do, because then you would just pretty much flip that money into making sure you bring back Byron Murphy, who in a weak cornerback free agent class coming up, barring some drastic cuts that are made or some voided contracts, he's going to be one of the top guys. So he's going to make close to top money. So a $16 million cap hit in the first year, maybe it's a little team friendly. You backlog it a little bit, but you make sure you bring him back. And even if you got to franchise tag him or anything like that, you have to make sure you keep Byron Murphy there to give DeMeco Ryans somebody to work with in that secondary at the cornerback position. You got Budda Baker in the safety room. You got Jalen Thompson there as well. The safeties, I think, are a lot better than what he's been used to dealing with in terms on a talent-to-talent level, but the cornerback room is substantially worse. So keeping Byron Murphy there gives him some sort of base to work off of, a veteran presence out there, somebody that he can trust to make the right decisions. And if he has to play on the outside, even though he's not best designed to do so, they can still pull that off. And like I said, they could restructure maybe a contract or two. I didn't really see one that made sense to me. And then I didn't really see any trades either for them to make. And I'm sure that if there's a bigger time free agent that they want to bring in, they could restructure some deals. But as I was going through the free agency market, I was kind of looking around, and it's like, I don't really see anyone here that Arizona would be overly excited to bring in, at least not to spend lots of money on. It could sort of be more of a filler roster type of a deal. But really the only money they spent, $16 million to keep Murphy, and they free up $12 million on Robbie Anderson. So they're really only out $4 million. And that leaves them with a spending cap of $23.6 million to fill out the rest of their roster. And where we get into this now is what their team needs are. And their team needs are as follows. There is the running back position. James Conner had one good year, was brought back on a pretty big contract, and never really achieved what he was looking for again. So is there a running back out there that you can get either in free agency or the draft? Also, the offensive line. You need to fill out this offensive line, get some more consistency in there. You got Letitia Smith and you drafted Marquise Hayes, who maybe in their second year can make a bit of an impact as guys sort of roll out of there. but you're also looking for something from Josh Jones finally. You're hoping that DJ Humphries can step up even further. He's the definition of a middle-of-the-pack solid tackle, but you want him to be more than that. Then you have the front four, where yes, you have Majai Sanders, yes, you have Cameron Thomas, but is there an alpha edge rusher in there? Maybe it is the least of these 5 needs. I would say it probably is. I would put it as the number 5. I just kind of did it in order of position groups. And you got the interior defensive line, which you do need to improve on. Zach Allen, I don't have him coming back. J.J. Watt, of course, retired. So you got to fill out that need. You do have the 3rd overall pick, so Jalen Carter's right there for you to do it. I think that's a home run pick. And then there's the cornerback room. And where can you address cornerback? You probably should address it in free agency and then again in the draft, maybe with a day 2 pick. And that's where it brings us to the free agency targets. And the only one I could really see was Emmanuel Mosley, an $8 million cap hit. He is currently a cornerback for the San Francisco 49ers. And every time, I've been saying this in the other videos, every time you see a new head coach who is a positions coach or a coordinator on another team, he generally will bring over some guys, 1 or 2 guys from the other team that he was on that he's used to coaching, that can come in and have a much smoother transition for his defense or his offense, in this case the defense. And now you can have Emmanuel Mosley, you can put him on the outside, you have Byron Murphy playing on the inside, you might be able to rotate those guys in and out, but now you at least have 2 cornerbacks out there that you know are starting caliber corners. One of them knows your system back and inside and out, and the other is one of the best at his particular nuance of the position, which is in the nickel, and that's in Byron Murphy. Couldn't really find anyone else. It would be one of those things you sort of got to wait to see what cuts are going to get made before you can start making really any of these drastic decisions. And there's also the assumption that there's some top free agents that are going to stick around at the teams that they're at right now, either through the franchise tag or a re-signing. So Emmanuel Mosley really was the only guy that I saw that would be a significant signing for Arizona going into the draft. And that leaves $15.6 million to fill out the rest of the roster and to sign your draft pick. Now, of course, that can change with a restructure. You can add $5 to $10 million on a restructuring of a contract if there's a free agent you particularly fall in love with, or maybe demanding more money, one you weren't expecting to see. But I still, $15.6 million to sign your draft picks to fill out the roster is a really good spot to be in. Because they got a lot of talent and they can do a lot of assessing here. They're going to be much better, I think, regardless. It's hard to see the Arizona being the 3rd worst team in the NFL and maintaining that just based upon the overall talent they have. But there is a particular draft strategy that I think they should invoke. And that draft strategy is very simple. At number 3, you take Jalen Carter. You have to assume that the Bears are trading out at number 1 and that they will take, and that it'll be because a quarterback's getting taken. And then Houston at 2 will take whatever other quarterback there is, whether it's Stroud or Young, leaving you with the pick between Carter and Anderson. And personally, when you have Sanders and you have Thomas and you have Golden, you have all these other guys in there already, you don't have anyone that plays on the interior. So get Jalen Carter. Closest thing to Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt type of a player that we've had. Then with your 2nd round pick, there is the possibility Bijan Robinson starts to take a tumble, just based on running back value. Now, is it something that you might want to consider trading up for? I think that there are a couple teams that I could see being willing to depart with their 1st round pick to maybe pick up an extra 3rd, for example, perhaps like the Denver Broncos. Maybe a team like Minnesota would be willing to trade back. We've seen that they've been willing to do that in the past, and they're willing to move around and pick up draft picks hand over fist. But say that you don't really have that opportunity. Bijan Robinson gets taken by the Eagles maybe at 10, and there's not really that option for you. So then you have to turn to your next thing, and then it's either you grab the best offensive lineman or the best cornerback. Whichever one is higher overall on your board, you take that guy, whether it's Anton Harrison, whether it's DeJuan Jones, whether it's Emmanuel Forbes, Jalen Jones. You have whatever on your draft board, you see offensive tackle or corner. When you go down your draft board, whichever one pops up there first, that's the one you take. And it immediately fills out one of your great needs there and can help complete one aspect of your team. Especially if you sign Emmanuel Mosley, if it's a corner, then you've really got a good corner room there. You got 3 or 4 corners now, where before you really only had 1. or you draft an offensive lineman, maybe I would assume a tackle to get somebody opposite of DJ Humphrey, so you can kick Jones inside, and then there that is right there. You hope maybe Rodney Hudson sticks around. Is he going to stick around? Not really sure. But you do have rookies that you drafted last year that may need to step up. Be good second year players, or maybe sign some of these replacement level starters in the free agency. But I think that you have to, at least at some point in this draft, after grabbing Carter at 3, get yourself a running back, draft an offensive lineman or 2, and at least get a corner. And I think that I would prefer, unless it's Bijan Robinson, that you grab with your day 2 picks a lot offensive lineman and a corner, whichever one it seems will work out better for you overall is whichever one you grab first. And then early on day 3, maybe grab one of the running backs that fell. There's a lot of good running backs in this draft: Sean Tucker, Zach Charbonnet, Devin Ashani, Blake Corum. There's so many good guys that you could possibly have a shot at grabbing at the beginning of day 3. If that's the way that the board ends up working out for you. But there's a lot of potential here overall, I think, for the Cardinals in general. And there it is, my offseason predictions for the Arizona Cardinals. Make sure to leave in the comment section what your thoughts are on what I did with Arizona. I think it's pretty fun. There wasn't a whole lot to really do with them. A lot of it is just, who's the messenger for them. There you have a huge issue with that and keeping the maturity of their players. So I think I was able to figure out a nice way to do that and give them some nice strategies, perhaps moving forward. Make sure to thumbs up the video and subscribe so you don't miss any of the future ones. Going to try to do 1, maybe 2 of these a day to catch up before the playoffs start on Saturday. And I will see you guys next time.